she asked. "Will you stay human?" His answer shook the entire station. Wind screamed along the sky bridge of Halo 9. Rain fell in straight lines like wires. Glass panels shook. Red warnings blinked, then steadied. The city over the ocean held, but it groaned like an old ship. Inside a small apartment, Lyra Shea stood still. The room was neat, almost strict. One chair, one cup, a folded blanket. A low vent hummed warm air. Her hands pressed flat on the counter so they would not shake. A wall notice glowed. Stability review in 4 days. Lyra hated that word. Stability. She was not a broken shelf. She had lost her partner and refused a schedule for grief. The law wanted patterns, 2 sets of shoes, 2 spoons by the sink, 2 shadows passing the door. If the scan did not see that rhythm, the permit died. A knock cut through the vent noise. 3 even taps. The terrace glass was white with rain. A shape waited behind the blur. She opened the seal. Wind pushed in. A human stood at the threshold, soaked. Jacket dripping. Breath steady. Tool sling on his hip. His eyes swept the room once and stopped. "Aaron Cole," he said. "Survey tech. Outer ring sensors." His voice was level. "Storm overflow," he added, tilting his head toward the sky. "Crew quarters are full. I need a locked door and a warm vent. I can trade work." Lyra kept one hand on the latch. She noticed his hands first. Knuckles scraped, but fingers steady. She saw the red recall band on his sleeve and the weight of his tools. Useful weight. "I'm Lyra," she said. "Archivist. Registered tenant. Tower 7, level 5. They stood at the line where outside became inside. Rain hissed against glass. The turbines beat a slow bass under the floor. "I won't cross without terms," Aaron said. "Your pace. Your rules. I fix what breaks. I cook before sleep. I label any panel I open. I leave if you say the word." The list surprised her. Most men who needed shelter tried charm. He offered order. She opened the door a hand's width wider and stepped back. "Kitchen," she said. "Prove it." The apartment was small. Everything had a place. Aaron peeled off his jacket, wrung the sleeves in the sink, and hung it over the vent with 2 clips so the drip fell on the mat. He washed, dried once, and reached for the knife. "This pulls," he said, testing the edge. "It cuts fruit," Lyra said. "Fruit forgives. Meat doesn't." He drew a small steel from his sling. Short strokes, even pressure. The sound scratched a steady rhythm through the room. Lyra felt her shoulders lower. He salted a strip of reef ram until the surface roughened, pressed it to the pan, and waited. He did not fill the air with talk. He watched the edges brown, turned it once, and let it rest. He wiped the board and folded the rag into a neat square. "Plates," Lyra said, then paused and set only one between them. "We share," he said, simple as a map point. They ate, standing up. He sliced and offered her the first piece. He chewed slow. He did not stare at her glow. He watched the room like a man who wanted it to stay standing. She watched his wrist, the exact angle of his thumb, the way he kept close to heat without fear. "What do you want?" she asked. "A door that locks," he said. "Work that pays on time. Coffee when the kettle whistles. The right to stand beside you without being told to move." "You can stand beside me," she said, "but I set the pace." "Good," he said. The strip light above the terrace flickered. Aaron set down the knife, crossed to the panel, and snapped the faceplate free with a small tool. A ribbon cable had slipped. He seated it. The light steadied. He took a marker and wrote on the inside edge. Strip A3, ribbon 2 seated. Date, initials. "You label things," Lyra said. "So I remember what the room owes me," he said. The answer moved heat up her neck. Not shame, recognition. She had lived alone long enough to fear small slips. He arrived and made order without taking space. Outside, the wind shifted. Rain softened to a silver curtain. "There is a rule," Lyra said. "If you stay, you don't touch me unless I ask. Doors stay open, we go slow. We fade to black before it turns messy. Inspectors look for routine. We give them routine, but none of it is a show." "I agree," Aaron said. No pause, no smile. A contract in the air. She watched him drag the chair to the bedroom door and angle it so he could see the vent, the panel, and the terrace latch. He set his sling down for a pillow. Ready to stand if needed. Ready to sleep if allowed. "You'll be here at first light?" she asked. "I will be here when the kettle whistles," he said. That was enough. Lyra lay back. The storm thinned to a hush. The light dimmed. She listened to his breathing even out. Once he opened his eyes to check the strip he had fixed. It told her more than any vow. He cared for small things and checked them twice. The city held. The permit clock ticked. In the quiet, a new pattern began. The storm eased by morning, but Halo 9 still moaned like a tired engine. Thin fog rolled between the glass towers. The ocean below shimmered faintly through the mist. Inside Lyra's small apartment, silence held. Not empty, but careful. Aaron was already awake. He sat near the vent, sleeves rolled up, adjusting a small sensor reader. He had repaired it before dawn. Every movement he made was quiet and exact. No wasted motion, no noise that didn't belong. Lyra watched him from the doorway. The smell of cooked meat from last night still lingered in the air. Her heart beat faster for reasons she didn't want to name. He had stayed, just as he said he would. No trouble, no talk. Just stayed. You start early, she said. He looked up. Storm weakened. Easier to check the vent flow now. He pressed a button. The machine gave a soft hum. Balanced. Fixed. She almost smiled. Aaron stood, wiped the tool clean, and folded the cloth into a neat square again. If I don't fix small things, big things fail later, he said simply. You talk like an engineer. I am, he replied. Just not licensed anymore. Lyra poured water into the kettle. It hissed against the heat plate. She didn't ask what anymore meant. Some answers were meant to stay quiet. When the kettle whistled, he poured 2 cups without asking. He placed one in front of her and took the other to the window. Steam curled between them. You measure everything, she said, breaking the silence. Even how you pour. Routine keeps the mind calm, he said. You learn that when everything else around you breaks. Lyra nodded slowly. She understood that too well. They ate breakfast, here's the leftover reef ram and a few slices of fruit. Aaron cleaned the pan afterward, washed it and dried it until the metal shined. Then he labeled the small repair log on the wall terminal. You keep notes for everything? She asked. Yes. Work done, time taken, tools used. You expect someone to check? He shook his head. No. But someday if someone comes after me, they'll know what was fixed. That matters. Lyra didn't know why that line struck her so deeply. Maybe because no one had ever left things better for her before. As the morning light shifted, she turned on her console. The government system blinked awake. She logged her daily report. Resident active. 2 occupants. Shared activity confirmed. The words made her chest tighten. She looked at Irene. He sat by the window still. Like a person who could vanish and leave no sound behind. You know, she said softly, if you keep this up, the inspectors will think we're stable. That's good, he replied. Stability keeps people off your back. His voice carried no mockery, only truth. They spent the rest of the day building what looked like routine. He replaced 2 loose floor seals. She organized data files for her archive shift. Every so often, they spoke in short bursts, practical words. No fluff. Do you always fix things? She asked at one point. Only when they stop working. And what about people? He looked at her then. His gray eyes didn't flinch. People aren't mine to fix, he said, but I can stand next to them while they do. She looked away quickly, pretending to check the kettle again. The silence that followed was warm, not sharp. By evening, the storm had died completely. The city's dome lights flickered on, painting the terrace in soft blue. Lyra stood by the glass wall, watching the reflection of her own glow in it. Aaron was sitting at the small counter, tools arranged like soldiers. I haven't had company in a long time, she said quietly. Not real company. He nodded, not lifting his eyes from the small circuit board he was fixing. Company isn't noise, he said. It's presence, Lyra turned toward him. And you think that's enough? For now, he said, tightening a screw. It's enough to keep both of us breathing. When night came, she dimmed the lights. Aaron dragged the chair back to the same place as before, 2 hands width from her door facing the vent in the hall. You don't have to sit there every night, she said. It's habit, he said. I don't sleep well with walls at my back. She nodded. She understood. Loss made people sleep facing exits. Before turning in, Lyra checked the wall log again. 2 entries. 2 meals. 2 devices repaired. The system would see it as proof. But for the first time, it didn't feel like acting. When she lay down, She listened to the steady rhythm of his movements, the faint scrape of metal, the click of a latch, the sound of someone building peace from broken things. She thought of his words. Routine keeps the mind calm, and for the first time in months, she felt calm too. The rain stopped, but the air outside still smelled of metal and salt. Halo 9 had entered its inspection cycle, the week when every apartment was checked, measured, and judged. Lyra woke early, nerves already tight. The soft chime of the city network pulsed from her wall terminal. Notice resident review, today 09 LEM. She stared at the screen for a long moment before turning to the small kitchen. Aaron was already there, sleeves rolled, boiling water for coffee. Steam fogged the window, hiding the distant lights. He looked calm, like always. "They're coming today," she said. "I saw the notice," he replied. "You logged 2 days of shared activity. That should satisfy them." "It's never enough," she said quietly. "They don't look for truth. They look for patterns." He met her eyes. "Then we'll give them patterns that breathe." It sounded simple when he said it. He poured the coffee, steady hands, same rhythm as always. Lyra sat across from him. The warmth of the mug grounded her even as fear crawled under her ribs. At 09 sharp, the doorbell rang. A calm mechanical tone. 2 figures in gray entered, a woman holding a tablet, a man with a scanner. Their faces were blank, polite, professional. "Routine inspection," the woman said. "Cohabitation verification for Unit 75A. Lyra nodded. "You may enter." The inspectors stepped inside. The male clerk scanned the room. His device chirped as it logged air temperature, occupancy heat, and surface wear. Aaron stood near the counter, posture relaxed, hands visible. He didn't speak. He didn't move unless asked. "State names," the woman said. "Lyra Shea," she answered. "Registered tenant." "Aaron Cole," he said. "Survey technician, temporary contract." The clerk tapped the data pad. "Duration of stay?" "Since the storm overflow," Aaron said. 2 nights. The woman's gaze flicked between them. "Activities logged." "Shared meals," Lyra said. "Maintenance assistance." "No other entries." The clerk walked to the terrace door and touched the sensor plate. "Vent temperature stable," he noted. "Lighting repair recorded at 0300. "That was me," Aaron said. "Ribbon cable reseated." The woman looked up. "You keep detailed maintenance logs?" "I label what I fix," he said simply. "Makes follow-ups easier." She seemed to hesitate a second too long before typing. Lyra caught the small pause. Inspectors didn't like humans who sounded like they knew systems better than them. "Understood," the woman said finally. "We'll schedule a follow-up in 3 days to confirm stability." The pair turned to leave. The scanner beeped once more, recording the sound of rain against glass. When the door closed, silence filled the room. The hum of turbines returned, low and steady. Lyra leaned against the counter and let out a shaky breath. "You did fine," Aaron said. Her hands still trembled. "They'll come again. They always do, looking for anything that doesn't fit their data." He poured her another cup of coffee and slid it across the counter. "Then we keep giving them things that fit until you don't have to care anymore." She looked at him, unsure whether to laugh or cry. "You make it sound easy." "It isn't," he said. "But fear doesn't fix anything." He turned toward the small cooking unit, reached for the remaining reef ram and placed it in the pan. "You're cooking again?" she asked. "Smells help," he said. "Makes the place feel used." "Feels honest," the pan hissed. Fat sizzled. The scent filled the air, pushing back the sharp smell of damp metal. Lyra watched him work, the way his movement stayed calm, every action clean. There was comfort in his discipline. "You always follow rules this carefully?" she asked. "Rules keep machines running," he said. "But people aren't machines." She tilted her head. "And what are people to you then?" He turned off the heat and let the pan rest. "People are why machines should run right." The words were strange, too big, too human, and they stuck in her mind. They ate in silence again, standing like the first night. Outside the fog thinned. Sunlight spilled through the glass, lighting the counter between them. After a while, she said softly, "I was married once." He looked up, not prying, just listening. He was a system advisor. His shuttle decompressed during transfer. "They said grief has a schedule." "I didn't follow it." Aaron's jaw tightened slightly. "You shouldn't have to." "The city doesn't agree," she said. "Now my permit depends on pretending I've healed." He nodded once. "Then we'll pretend smarter." The simplicity of his answer made her chest ache. He wasn't offering pity. He was offering action. Later, as she cleaned the dishes, Aaron checked the window seals. "This one leaks pressure," he said. "I'll fix it tomorrow." "You don't have to," she said. "Yes, I do," he replied. "Can't live in a room that breathes wrong." Lyra looked at him for a long time. The scars along his ribs, the steady voice, the hands that worked without hesitation. "Why did you come here, really?" she asked. He thought before answering. "Because it was raining," he said finally. "And because you opened the door." She smiled faintly. "That's it?" "For now," he said. That night, the city lights glowed soft gold through the fog. Lyra sat by the terrace while Aaron wrote something small on a piece of metal scrap. She leaned closer. It was a label. "Filter replaced, Cole. You really have to mark everything?" she asked. "It reminds me what still matters," he said. She didn't answer, but when she went to bed later, she noticed something new, calm in the air. The kind that comes after order returns, even if only for a little while. For the first time since her husband's death, she slept without dreaming of alarms. The next few days moved quietly, but the quiet wasn't peace, it was waiting. The city's storm season had ended, yet Halo 9 still carried tension in its hum. Every corridor smelled of ozone and regulation. Lyra had learned to live between both. Aaron stayed, same as before. He woke early, fixed things no one noticed, and labeled every wire he touched. When he wasn't working, he sat near the window, watching the distant shimmer of sea clouds below. He looked like a man who didn't trust stillness but kept trying anyway. Lyra pretended to focus on her data shifts, yet her eyes kept drifting toward him. Something about the way he moved made her feel safe. Not because he was strong, but because he was steady. He never raised his voice, never made her flinch. Every word he said seemed measured, not to control her, but to leave room for her to breathe. That morning, she opened her old terminal for a security check. A flicker of blue text scrolled up the screen. Access code, Shade 1723, active, her husband's code. It still pinged once a month, just like Aaron had warned her. Lyra stared at it for a long time, hand hovering above the delete key. She didn't press it. Not yet. Aaron entered from the terrace, wiping rain from his arms. "You still haven't removed it," he said quietly. She turned, startled. "You were watching?" "I saw the reflection in the glass." Lyra crossed her arms, defensive. "It's just a code." He shook his head. "It's a chain. You already know that." She wanted to argue, but couldn't. The truth stung because it was gentle. That evening, they cooked again. Reef ram strips, this time with salt roots from the storage unit. Aaron seasoned in silence, his hands moving with a rhythm that filled the room. Lyra washed the fruit, eyes flicking to him every few seconds. When they ate, she finally spoke. "You talk about order like it's freedom." "It can be," he said, chewing slowly, "if you build it yourself. What if someone else builds it for you?" "Then it's control," he said. "And control wears the same face as safety, until it asks you to stop being yourself." His tone was even, but the words hit deep. She stared at her plate for a long moment. "You've lived under that kind of order before." He didn't deny it. "I used to inspect outposts," he said. "We measured lives with numbers. Hours worked, meals consumed, even how often people smiled. It made me good at reading systems, bad at trusting them." Lyra's chest tightened. "So you left?" "I refused an order," he said simply. "The kind that would have kept numbers clean and people dead." Silence stretched. The hum of turbines filled the space between them. Finally, she said, "Then maybe you're the first honest man this city's seen in years." He gave a faint smile. Honesty doesn't fit into their reports. That night, as they cleaned, she pulled her torn coat from the rack. "You sew, right?" she asked, trying to sound casual. He nodded. "Space teaches you. You can't wait for someone else to fix your jacket." She handed it to him. "Then fix mine." Aaron sat near the vent with a small needle kit, his focus absolute. Lyra watched him from the counter. His hands moved slowly, threading, knotting, pulling each stitch even. It wasn't just repair. It was patience turned into movement. When he was done, he handed it back. "It'll hold." "Thank you," she said. He looked up at her. "Don't thank me for mending something that shouldn't have been broken in the first place." Lyra froze. There was no anger in his voice, only quiet truth. After a moment, she spoke again. Aaron, why are you really here? He didn't answer right away. He looked at the coat in her hands, then at the reflection of himself in the window. Because you opened the door, he said softly, and because I didn't want to close it again. The next day the inspectors returned, same faces, same hollow politeness. Their eyes scanned every inch of the room, the walls, the counter, the bed. They were searching for proof of a lie. Your activity logs are consistent, the woman said. We require a visual confirmation of shared space. Aaron's jaw tightened. You mean you want to see us act like we care about each other? The male clerk frowned. It's standard protocol. No, Aaron said, calm but sharp. It's voyeurism wrapped in policy. Lyra touched his arm gently on a signal to stop. It's fine, she whispered. Let it go. The inspectors finished quickly and left. When the door closed, she turned to him. You didn't have to defend me. I wasn't, he said. I was defending the idea that privacy still means something. You'll make enemies talking like that. I've had worse, he said with a dry smile. That evening, the wind rose again. The panels outside trembled with distant thunder. Lyra sat near the glass wall, eyes on the flickering skyline. Aaron repaired another small vent, quiet, methodical. After a while, she said, I deleted the code. He stopped working, met her gaze, and nodded. Good, you just did the hard part, she exhaled. What's the easy part? Living with it, he said. Something in her chest eased. Not freedom, not yet, but something close. She walked over and placed her hand on his shoulder. It wasn't romantic. It was gratitude made solid. He didn't move. Didn't pull away. Stay, she said quietly. Even after the permit clears. He looked up, eyes steady. If I stay, it's not for the permit. Then why? Because you remind me what normal used to feel like. Lyra's breath caught. She wanted to say something, but no words came. Instead, she rested her forehead lightly against his. The hum of Halo 9 filled the silence around them. Deep, constant, alive, and for the first time, she believed it might be possible to live inside it, not just survive. The storm returned 2 nights later, harder than before. Rain struck the dome like falling nails. The turbines beneath Halo 9 howled in protest. Every vent in the city hummed off balance. Lyra woke to flashing lights on her wall panel. Airflow error, outer ring sector B. She sat up, heart pounding. That was close. Too close. Aaron was already moving. Boots on, tool sling clipped, calm as if he'd expected it. You can't go out there, Lyra said, voice sharp with fear. If those sensors fail, half the ring depressurizes, he said. If that happens, we lose the walkway and the people on it. He didn't shout. He didn't need to. He was already halfway to the door before she found her shoes. Outside, the corridor shook underfoot. Emergency lights bathed everything in red. The air was thin, sharp. Steam hissed from vents that should have stayed sealed. Lyra followed him out, ignoring the rules. The regulations said tenants must remain indoors during storms. But she couldn't. Not when he was heading straight into the wind. Aaron reached the control gate, hands moving in a blur. Panels sparked under his touch. He pried one open, teeth clenched. A fuse core glowed white-hot. Get back! He called. She didn't. Instead, she grabbed the power rod from his belt and handed it to him before he could ask. He took it, jammed it into the panel, and bridged the failing link. The vent roared back to life with a deep metallic groan. For one heartbeat, the city seemed to breathe again. Then the ground trembled. A crack split the skywalk ahead. A small boy, maybe 10, screamed as his shoe caught between the panels. The suction from the broken vent pulled him toward the edge. Lyra moved first. She ran, skidding on wet glass, grabbed the boy's arm, and fell hard to her knees. The wind tore at her hair, pulling her closer to the gap. Aaron was there in seconds. He anchored himself with one hand on the railing, reached for her with the other. Hold! He shouted over the roar. She gritted her teeth, arms shaking. The boy's small hand was slipping. Aaron lunged, grabbed both of them, and pulled hard. The 3 of them hit the floor in a heap, the boy sobbing, Lyra gasping. Aaron's palm burned raw. A siren blared once, then the lights flicked back to green. System restored, pressure stable. Aaron rolled onto his back, breathing heavy. Lyra looked at him. You're bleeding. Burn, he said quietly, staring up at the glass ceiling. Nothing new. She laughed weakly through tears. You're insane. He turned his head toward her. No, he said. Just tired of watching things fall apart. Security drones hovered in moments later, scanning the scene. One of them projected the blue seal of the Enforcement Division. Unauthorized activity detected. The drone's synthetic voice said, Please remain still for inspection. Lyra stood trembling with anger. We just saved your air vents. The drone didn't care. Its lens adjusted with mechanical indifference. Aaron wiped his hands on his shirt, standing beside her. Don't bother arguing, he said. Machines don't listen. The people behind them stopped too. By morning, the emergency was over. The news screens across Halo 9 called it a minor malfunction. No one mentioned the boy, or the man who risked his life to keep the ring intact. When they returned to the apartment, Lyra's hands still shook. Aaron cleaned his burns with quiet precision. He didn't flinch even when the disinfectant hissed. You could have died, she said, her voice breaking. So could they, he replied. That's how balance works. Someone stands up so others don't fall. Lyra stared at him for a long time. You think you're responsible for everything, don't you? He gave a small shrug. Not everything. Just what's in reach. Later that afternoon, 2 inspectors arrived again. Same faces, same gray uniforms, same polite cruelty. Report of unauthorized system override, the woman said. Maintenance not cleared for civilian action. Lyra's jaw clenched. You mean saving lives? Protocol exists for a reason, the man said. We can't have unlicensed intervention. Aaron stood beside her, voice calm but edged. If we'd followed protocol, you'd be counting bodies. The woman's eyes narrowed. You're a contract worker, not security. Not command. I'm human, Aaron said evenly, and that used to mean something here. The silence that followed was electric. Lyra felt her pulse hammering, expecting punishment, expulsion, anything. But the inspectors only typed quietly, recorded their notes, and left without another word. When the door sealed behind them, Lyra turned to him. They'll come back. Let them, he said. They can't report what they can't explain. That night the storm faded. The air tasted of salt and victory. Lyra watched him clean his tools by the dim blue light of the city. His palms were wrapped, his movement slower now but precise as ever. Why do you keep doing this? She asked softly, fixing things that aren't yours to fix. He looked at her, eyes calm. Because someone has to. Lyra stepped closer. The distance between them was smaller than it had ever been. You don't even know what you're fighting for. Yes, I do, he said. For a world that still remembers how to care. The wind outside calmed. The turbines returned to their steady hum. For the first time, Halo 9 sounded alive again. Not perfect, not peaceful, but breathing, and so were they. The next morning, Halo 9 glowed calm and silver. No storms, no alarms. The glass corridors looked freshly washed, as if the city itself wanted to forget what had happened. But Lyra couldn't. She kept seeing the boy's terrified face. The flash of red lights, Aaron's burned hands. The world had returned to order. And that was the problem. When she woke, Aaron was already at the counter sipping coffee from a tin mug. His hands were bandaged, but he still held the cup steady. You didn't sleep, she said. He smiled faintly. Neither did you. Lyra rubbed her temples. The air felt heavy like the calm after a lie. They called it a minor incident, not even a thank you. Machines don't thank people, he said. They just reset. She looked at him across the room. And you? You just keep moving like nothing happened. He met her eyes. Because if I stop, I start thinking. The wall terminal chimed, cutting through the silence. A new notice blinked on the screen. Cohabitation review completed. Status, stable. Residency granted. For a moment, Lyra didn't breathe. Her permit, her future, was secure. No more inspections. No more pretending. It's over, she said softly. Aaron stood, crossed the room, and read the display himself. You're free. She nodded slowly, unsure what the word even meant anymore. Free to live? Free to be alone again? He turned off the terminal. Then my job's done. The words landed like a punch. Your job? She repeated. He nodded. You asked me to stay until the inspection ended. It ended. Lyra's stomach nodded. So that's it? You walk out now. Like it was all just maintenance? Aaron's tone stayed calm, but his eyes softened. I don't belong here, Lyra. This world runs on rules that don't make sense to me. You do, she stepped closer. You think I belong here? A system that measured my grief by calendar weeks? He hesitated. That one hit him. Then what do you want? Her voice cracked. I don't know. For the first time, I don't have to follow anyone's schedule, but it feels empty. He watched her for a moment, then spoke quietly. That's what happens after survival. You stop running and realize you've forgotten how to live. Lyra turned away, hands gripping the counter. You talk like you've done this before. I have, he said. After I left the Federation. After I stopped believing their version of peace. She looked back at him. And did you ever find your own? He gave a small smile that didn't reach his eyes. Not yet. The room fell silent again. Outside, the turbines pulsed softly beneath their feet. The smell of salt drifted through the vents. Lyra sat down, tracing the edge of her coffee mug. If you leave, where will you go? Outer colonies, maybe, he said. They always need hands that can fix what's broken. Pays bad, but air's cleaner. And you'll go alone? He nodded. That's what I'm good at. She laughed once, but it sounded like a sigh. You make loneliness sound like a skill. He tilted his head. You make surviving sound like weakness. Her gaze met his. You're impossible. Accurate, he said simply. They stood in that strange balance again. Not closeness, not distance, just quiet recognition. Two people built from the same kind of hurt, still figuring out what to do with the pieces. When evening came, she cooked without speaking. The small apartment filled with the scent of roasted roots and salt meat. Aaron moved around her, setting plates, cleaning tools, checking systems that no longer needed checking. Their movements fit together like routine and practiced, calm, real. As they sat down to eat, Lyra finally spoke. I don't want to go back to being alone. He looked up, but said nothing. She continued, her voice low but steady. I used to think solitude was control. That if I needed no one, I couldn't be hurt again. But that's not living. It's hiding, Aaron listened. He didn't interrupt. He never did. So if you're planning to leave, she said, say it. Don't linger like a ghost, he set his fork down. I don't stay out of guilt, he said. I stay because you asked. Because you reminded me that peace doesn't always mean silence. Lyra blinked back sudden tears. And now? Now, he said quietly, I don't have a reason to leave. Unless you give me one. Her heart caught between relief and fear. I don't want you here out of pity. Then tell me to stay for something better. She stared at him. The light from the terrace glowed faintly against his bandaged hands. He looked exhausted but sure, like someone who had already survived too much to lie. Finally, she said it. Stay. The word came out small, but it filled the room. Aaron's shoulders eased, and for the first time his voice softened completely. Then I will. They didn't touch. They didn't need to. The air between them felt solid, like a promise made without ceremony. Outside, the city pulsed with life again. Distant sirens, engines, the hum of electricity. But inside there was only quiet. The system had granted Lyra her freedom on paper. But the real kind, and the kind that lived in breath and heartbeat and choice, she'd found sitting across from a man who never pretended to be more than human, and for the first time since Halo 9 began calling her unstable, she finally felt steady. Morning light spilled across Halo 9 like molten glass. The storms were gone, leaving the city washed clean, polished, pretending innocence. The air smelled of metal and salt again, the scent of order restored. But Lyra had changed. She stood on the terrace, watching the ocean clouds roll far below. The horizon glowed pale blue, endless, silent. Behind her, Oren was packing. Tools, data cards, the same jacket that had hung on her vent since the night he arrived. Each fold was neat, precise, final. You're really leaving, she said. Her voice was quiet, but the words cut through the hum of turbines. For now, he said, you have your permit. The city calls you stable. That's all they wanted, Lyra turned to him. That's not what I wanted. Aaron looked up. Then what do you want, Lyra? She hesitated. No one had ever asked her that before. For years, her life had been about rules, not choices. Schedules, not wants. I want to breathe, she said finally. Without feeling like I owe anyone proof, he smiled faintly. Then you're already free, she shook her head. Not if you walk out that door. For a moment, neither spoke. The turbines below hummed like a heartbeat. He zipped his bag. The next transport leaves at dawn. Outer colonies need sensor techs. Someone has to keep their vents alive. You could stay, she said. There's work here too. He nodded slowly. There is. But staying just because I'm afraid to leave isn't freedom either. Lyra crossed the room, standing a few feet from him. Then don't stay out of fear. Stay because you want to. Aaron's expression softened. You think I don't? Then say it. He set the bag down. You think words change anything? Yes, she said. Because I've spent years saying the wrong ones. For a moment, silence swallowed everything. Then quietly he said, I want to stay. Lyra's breath caught. Simple words. No promises. Just truth. He stepped closer. But if I do, we leave this place together. Somewhere the air isn't counted, and the doors don't scan who you share a bed with. Her pulse quickened. You mean leave Halo 9? There's a colony past the outer ring, he said. Narian Haven. No government patrols. No inspection laws. Just work, weather, and people trying to live. She stared at him, uncertain whether to laugh or cry. You make it sound easy. It isn't, he said. But it's real. Lyra walked to the window, staring out at the shining city. The towers glowed like cages made of light. She had fought for her right to stay. But maybe freedom wasn't about staying at all. She turned back to him. When? Tonight, he said. Before the shift change. No one will notice two people leaving during transit. Lyra looked around the room. The single cup, the folded blanket, the tools on the counter, the faint scorch mark on the stove where he'd burned water once. They're proof of life. I thought this place was safety, she said softly. It was, he replied, until you stopped needing it. They packed together in silence. Not much. Clothes, a few archived files, a jar of black salt. At the door, she hesitated, touching the frame. The surface was smooth, cold, perfect. They'll call us unstable again, she said. Then let them, he replied. We'll build something stable on our own terms. As they stepped into the corridor, the lights above flickered once. The air smelled faintly of ozone and promise. At the shuttle dock, an automated voice echoed, Departure in 2 minutes. All passengers prepare for transfer. They walked side by side toward the boarding gate. No handcuffs, no contracts, no inspectors. Just two people carrying a small piece of defiance. When they reached the ramp, Lyra paused. If they stop us? Aaron met her eyes. Then we find another way. And if they ask who we are? He smiled, the first real one she'd seen. Two people who decided we don't need permission to exist. The shuttle doors opened with a hiss. Warm air rushed out, smelling faintly of oil and new beginnings. They stepped inside. The door sealed behind them. Through the window, Halo 9 shrank, a ring of light over endless clouds. It looked beautiful from a distance, like something worth saving. But up close, they both knew it was just another machine pretending to care. Lyra watched until it was only a dot in the sky. Her reflection stared back at her from the glass, blue skin glowing softly under the cabin light. Aaron sat beside her, his hand resting on the armrest between them, palm up. No command, no invitation, just a space offered. She placed her hand in his. The shuttle engines ignited and the stars stretched across the window like silver threads. Lyra leaned back, eyes half closed. Where do you think we'll end up? Aaron squeezed her hand lightly. Somewhere that breathes, he said. She smiled, tired and free. That's enough. Outside, the city that once defined them faded into the dark. And for the first time, no one was counting their heartbeats. They were no longer survivors of Halo 9. They were human, choosing, living, unmeasured. The stars waited ahead, silent and wide. And this time, they didn't need permission to chase them.